Freilich and Purim to everybody. Happy Purim. So, in 1992, a Russian Jew goes into a coffee shop, orders a coffee from the waiter, a coffee and a Pravda, please. Comes back with a coffee, says, sorry, sir, fall of the Soviet Union, and there's no more Pravda, the newspaper. All right, next day he comes in, he orders again a coffee, and he asks for a Pravda. Says, he brings back the coffee, says, sir, I'm sorry, fall of the Soviet Union, and there's no more Pravda newspaper. Comes on a third day, and again, I'll ask for a coffee and a Pravda. Comes back with the coffee and says, sir, I've already told you 2 times previously that they follow the Soviet Union, there's no more Pravda. Why are you continuously asking? Says, I just love to hear that. Yeah. Purim Sameach. Purim is the fall of the enemies of the Jewish people. And we celebrate. So when we speak about the enemies of the Jewish people, what do we mean? And well, who is an enemy? Is every anti-Semite an enemy? And how do you deal differently one enemy or another? So give me one moment. All right.
Oh, name.
So we know that Haman is a descendant of Amalek. And when it comes to Amalek, we have a mitzvah machias Amalek, of destruction of Amalek. Now, we don't know exactly who's Amalek today, but it's definitely those who are acting like Amalek. But it's every anti-Semite, and Amaleki. So let's understand. Okay. There's a discussion between two Jew haters, Haman and Achashverosh. Is there a distinction between them? How do we understand that distinction? So Torah tells us, the Megillah tells us, which Last night we heard the Megillah, and today we have to hear again that Haman, um, seeing that Mordechai is not bowing down to him, and he sees that that's um, a national crisis because well, all the Jews are like him. He comes to Achashverosh and he says, "You have a nation that is different. They're dispersed amongst the nations here, and they have different kind of customs, different way of living, and I want to annihilate them. I want to annihilate them. And here's 10,000 silver coins for the job." Achashverosh, excuse me. Achashverosh responds, "I don't need them, and I don't need your money. Go ahead. Here's the seal of approval." That's a conversation. The Talmud gives us a um, metaphor for this. Two farmers uh, close to each other. One farmer had a big heap on his plot of land that he wanted to get rid of. Another farmer had a deep ditch that he wanted to fill, and was ready to pay for that. He was ready to pay for the deep ditch to be filled. He meets this other farmer who's got the big heap, and he says, "You know what? Just take it. I want to get rid of it. I don't need this." And this is a metaphor that is used to understand, Achashverosh and Haman. Achashverosh has a big heap. He doesn't need it. Haman has a big ditch, and he wants to fill it. Well, what a perfect shidduch. And so is the metaphor that's given to understand and to appreciate this exchange. Asked the Rebbe in a Fabringen 60 years ago, the exchange between them, what do we need a metaphor to explain it? Pretty simple. Pretty simple exchange. What is the metaphor adding? It, you know, someone has a heap, someone has a ditch. Okay, it's cute, but is it giving more understanding to the exchange, to the hatred over here? So, so the Rebbe explains. I'll bring in. I'll bring in 60 years ago. Rebbe says like this. What the Gemara is telling us like this. There's two types of hatred of a Jew. One is a heap and one is a ditch. The Jews are a heap, a pile. Another, the Jews cause a ditch. What does that mean? From Achashverosh and that kind of anti-Semite is seeing that Jews are different. They stick out, whether it's big noses that they have in order to keep in the books of Moses, or because they dress differently, they have different customs, a different path in life, a different way. And people are, don't like or not comfortable with, at least, things that are different than their comfort zone. And if they're different, who needs them, right? This is the anti-Semite Achashverosh, and that kind of anti-Semite, which, in a certain way, everybody is anti-someone because we're comfortable to a certain degree, right? Because we're comfortable to a certain degree. So some people are within that circle and some people are on the outside of that circle who we're not comfortable with. No, sometimes we outright just not comfortable with them. Sometimes that leads to dislike and sometimes it leads to hatred. So that's the human condition. It takes effort, to rise above it. This kind of anti-Semite, though, is someone that you could work with, if you will, or there's a chance. Look what happened to Achashverosh. He was kind of fickled. In the end, Esther's Jewish, and saves her, not just herself, but the Jewish people by approaching Achashverosh. So he's kind of, fickled. It could be like, some say, some of my best friends are Jewish, but I hate Jews. Right? Um, because this one's different. So, yeah, there's that kind of anti-Semitism is something that you can, by leading by example, by, just being yourself as a Jew and, um, what's the word? Open to others, that itself sometimes transforms that kind of person, right? Right. Because, after getting to know this kind of Jew and the integrity of the Jew, they don't seem like a heap of a pile that is just like, I want to get rid of this heap because, just sticking out. I want a level playing field, everybody the same. At a certain point, you can appreciate the differences in between people and be accepting. But then there is the kind of anti-Semitism of Haman. What that does, the Jew creates a ditch in the soul of Haman, an emptiness. Now, if a person has an emptiness, they need to know that that's their challenge, their issue, and they need to learn how to fill with goodness and kindness, with godliness in their lives. But most people, you know, victims, are victims and are not, right? So he has a huge ego. Haman. And Mordecai's not filling his ego. He's not bowing down to him. He's not making him feel good. Well, it must be you guys are really bad guys. You're not making me feel good. So you must be bad. You must be evil. So you're a victim of your own lack of self-worth. And all you do is point a finger to another. And, this person's not filling me with what I want and what I'm looking for. And they'll never fill me because they're the antithesis of what everything I stand for. As what Hitler said, he hates the Jew because he brought a conscience to the world. Whoa. Brought a conscience to the world. Wow. Imagine that. Created a ditch in Hitler. Created a emptiness that, the Jews making me feel empty, that I've got to have a conscience. And that was, he was diametrically opposed to everything he stood for, believed in, and more than anything, wanted. He wanted survival of the fittest. Well, conscience doesn't allow that. A conscience says that if you're not fit, help them out. Right? That's your greater self, your more divine self. Your animal self tells you survival of the fittest. And I've got to be fit physically, emotionally, intellectually. And that's what he was trying to do with Third Reich, to create a pure nation that will be reign for 1,000 years. That's, and the Jew is creating a ditch, is creating a problem with that, because they are the antithesis of that notion of you got to be charitable, goodness and kindness, help those that are weak. Help those that are weak. Weak should wither away, and if they won't, we'll kill them. That is the ditch that is created in someone's soul, that there's nothing you can do but destroy it. That kind of anti-Semitism, that kind of attitude towards another, because it becomes it's so deeply rooted that the only thing you can do is destroy it. And that was Haman, his ditch that he had. And in closing, when the Nazis came into the town of Klosenberg in present-day Romania, gathered the Jews in the town square, and they made a point of abusing the Klosenberger Rebbe, Rebbe Halberstam. And so the Nazi commander says, "Are you the chosen people?" He says, "Yes." Took the butt of his rifle and hit him across the head. Fell down. Then, so he asked him again, "Are you the chosen people?" "Indeed we are," he said. It gives them a kick. You're down on the ground, right? Foolish Jew you are, humiliated you are, and you think you're the chosen people. So he replied, as long as we don't act the way you act, we're the chosen people. There's such a deep hole in that soul. It's so deep that they can't recognize, and there's nothing you can do to fix it until they recognize the deep hole that they have in their soul. But today we have such people, and the only thing that can be done with them is annihilation. That's the only thing that can be done. Afreilich Purim, everybody, because we're going to celebrate the annihilation of evil, and more importantly in the end, the celebration of that the Jewish people are an eternal people. And no matter who comes up against us, God Almighty will be there for the Jewish people. We just have to be there for God. Freilich and Purim will, I don't know if we'll have Chumash and Rashi just because we have to read the Megillah this morning, and so it's going to take time, but we'll have Tanya for sure.
Purim Sameach.
Don't forget to do the mitzvahs. All Jewish people have to do mitzvahs today. You have to give charity to 2 people. You have to give to 1 friend a gift of 2 ready-to-eat items. Mishloach manot, shalach manas, and a Purim Suda, and of course to hear the Megillah. If you don't have where to hear the Megillah, then read it yourself in English, verbalize it. Don't just read it with your eyes. Verbalize the words in English. Okay. Don't watch it just online. You verbalize it yourself. You can watch it online, but you have to verbalize